Most manufacturers struggle with both telling and sharing their stories. So that's where I come in with my 3-step process. Sign up, suit up, and show up. My name is Gail Robertson, and I am Chief Curiosity Officer with GailNow. And what I do is help those manufacturers basically get out of their way sometimes so that they can share their stories, because often it's not just about doing it for themselves, but they have a duty, or at least I believe, and I think others do, that they have a duty to share some of that information with the world. And our guest today will be someone who's going to be talking a bit about the science behind how we can delve into those stories and how we can, well, maybe step outside our comfort zone. And what it comes down to is what our comfort zone is, not stepping outside someone else's, but what is our comfort zone and how can we even take baby steps to get out of there? I first met this next guest when I was listening to a podcast. I heard him speak about the power of taking a cold shower. Now, anyone that's heard my talks would have heard me reference the cold shower principle. So we're going to be talking a bit about that today. But I also wanted to stress the power of connections, the power of networking, the power of curiosity. Because I heard this guest on a podcast, I was able to follow him, reach out to him, and make a connection. And over time, I realized that we had another similarity in that we were both graduates of Heroic Public Speaking. You may have heard on the show previously why I encourage people to make comments in the comments section, because that's where some great networking can happen. That's where we can share stories. That's where we can meet other people. I'm hoping today as well that there might be some other connections from our guests as well as the regulars that come out each week, and we can connect up. So we will be getting to some comments. Please also drop where you're coming in from. Drop a comment if you're tuning in live, for sure. We'll bring that up on the screen and I'll introduce you to our next guest. So I want to say our next guest is someone that I had the privilege of also recently spending a bit of time with him on the phone, hearing what he does. And he is someone who has, so many stories. He has so much diversity in what he does, what he teaches, and definitely so many things that can help with those of you in manufacturing. And even if you're not in manufacturing, you're going to be able to learn a lot from our guest. So I would like to welcome, drum roll, please, Paresh Shah is in the house. Although
Hey,
not a
Gail.
drum roll, maybe a
power chord.
A power chord.
Hey, Gail, great to see you.
Welcome. Let's, before we start, normally I wait a bit, but I do want to do a shout out. We have our studio audience, and it's always exciting because we have a lot of people listening in from globally as well. So it's always exciting when I have new guests on and we have people starting to say hello. So we have, Inger has dropped in to say hello. And as you know, you've already met Inger. Inger also does work in manufacturing with LinkedIn and also live streaming.
Hey, Inger.
And she's right. Yes, network and community are both so important. She also specializes in Ubuntu. So and she talks about that on her show. Denrich. Denrich is an amazing person who does so much networking, connecting, and working in the area of cybersecurity, and an amazing person. So welcome, Denrich. I'm sure you will get a lot from today. I think this is definitely something you're going to enjoy. James Kunkel, a fellow manufacturer connection, and hello, James. So welcome today. We have Denver says, Gail, you're awesome. I'm sure your guest is brilliant as well. Oh, yes, definitely much brilliance today. Oh, and we have Rebecca Pierce-Murray. She said she wants to hear the guitar. Rebecca, I've known through networking, but also just met her. I was out in Seattle as a keynote speaker with the Pacific Northwest Aerospace Alliance, and that's where I met Rebecca. She was there as a guest at that event. So welcome. Okay. So we will probably have more people streaming in today and making comments. Please, everyone, drop comments, connect with one another. I won't always put up all the comments because some of them have side conversations in the comments. So that's great. And yeah, so now over to our guest. So Paresh, can you, and I didn't really prompt you with this, but maybe you could give sort of a bit of an overview. I've often said that, you know, you are a mechanical engineer, you have an MBA from Harvard, but you have done so many things. Could you maybe give a few highlights and just introduce yourself to the manufacturing community today?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone, and good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I'm so excited to be here. Gail, your energy is so infectious, and it's all about human connection. That's what we were talking about, connection. So, first of all, I'm here for anyone who's here. If I can be of any help to you, or you just want to connect, have a drink or have a Zoom, find me on LinkedIn, find me through Gail, and any friend of Gail's is a friend of mine. Strange background. Let's see, born in India, came to America in the Baltimore area, grew up on the East Coast. I was a mechanical engineer, aerospace, and worked at Northrop Grumman in a variety of really cool high-tech, often secret projects for the Department of Defense. So I love solving problems. I love tough challenges. I love doing stuff that no one's ever done before. So then after that, my curiosity was piqued around business. And I was designing like the chip that goes in the board, that goes in the box, that goes in the radar system, that goes in the F-16 that flies a mission. And I'm asking questions like, well, why are we fighting in the first place? So I wanted a more elevated perspective. And so I decided to go to business school, and I knew nothing about business really, other than, selling greeting cards for marching band as a kid. And so I went to business school, and I had a wonderful time, and really plunged into business, and have been in that field for 30 years now. Worked at one of the major management consulting firms with a fellow named Michael Porter. You may have heard of the terms competitive advantage, competitive strategy, 5 forces, and all those things. So that was a wonderful experience, and I've worked in a variety of industries. Manufacturing, I love, especially in technology. So I've been doing basically coaching, consulting, and really now we're doing a lot of training and workshops because of what people are going through right now. So our bread and butter right now is training clients to have just superior performance, and how to engage your talent, how to have your clients love you, and how to basically adopt new ways of operating as executives, leaders, business owners, managers that are very different from the way that I learned to be a leader or manager at Harvard Business School, because the world has fundamentally changed. So that's very exciting for me. And then the other piece of it is I've studied very deeply in yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and ancient wisdom sciences, spirituality, self-help, all traditions. So that's a real passion of mine, and it's part of what sometimes I bring to my coaching to my clients, because they want to perform great at business, but they also want to feel great about themselves, and just live extraordinary lives. So I teach yoga, meditation, and I surf, and I'm in a rock band, and I'm a dad. I have 4 kids. I have an amazing wife I've been with for 41 years, and I'm a happy camper.
Wow. You know what, Paresh, when we spoke the other day too, what I found most interesting is I'm fascinated by our brains and curiosity and how we think. And one of the things we have in common, I used to work in mainstream media. And one of the things when I went into journalism school, I remember our graduating year, we had these shirts made, "Out to Change the World," on deadline. And that was kind of I thought, I'm going to go out and change the world. And I found maybe not so much in media. And instead, that's what I'm doing now. I'm hoping to, make change. And I think, like you said, when you start getting curious, you want to look at the world differently. And I love that story that you were asking the question, well, why are we fighting? which
that's the question. I'm like, okay, the chip might fail, but yeah, so it's really elevating to a higher perspective is something that I enjoy. So I got into strategy and business and that sort of thing. And consciousness is my new passion.
And that's what really, when I talk about showing up, I look at all aspects of how people show up in the world. And one of the things that really stands out about the work you're doing is that because you have the science, and as I said, from that first time I heard you talk about the cold shower. So we will get to that for people that maybe haven't heard my take on it, because I have sort of my take on how I have been now, I guess, close to 3 years, I think, that I take a cold shower
Wow,
every
it's been
morning.
3 years. Hey, congratulations, Gail. I'm really
Yeah.
proud of you.
No,
That's
it's,
great.
and I will say, if I miss it for whatever reason, and get up and I start going, what's wrong with the day? Everything feels off balance. So we'll get to that. But speaking of balance, one of the things you also mentioned the other day that I'd like you to talk about is that we often hear work-life balance, and you have a bit different take on that. So let's jump into that, because I know some of the people, I think, that are tuning in could probably benefit from your take on how you're able to be a rock musician, a surfer, and do business, and manage to still have like are happy with you're managed to be successful and happy and still have a complex life. So not perfect maybe, but a complex.
No. There's always challenges,
Yeah.
of course. And the world's going through a very difficult time right now that's affecting everybody. So, I have clients that say, "Hey, Paresh, I want what you have, right? You're doing all this stuff. Help me find work-life balance." I'm like, I cannot help you find work-life balance, because that actually, the way we frame it in our consciousness to begin with, makes them oppositional activities. Like you want to balance what this thing, and a little more here, a little less here. And so I have been using the term with my clients for years now, and particularly with the changes from pandemic and work at home and all of the blending of life and work, is really, it's around, how do you create a superb weave? How do you weave these aspects into your life in a really beautiful tapestry or mosaic? So to me, um, being able to show up, and we use the word show up as well, with all of who you are, your full spectrum humanity, and having your talent, inviting your talent to show up with their yes ands, and be able to express them somehow, irrespective of whatever their job is really how to get people to just love what they do, and feel that they're part of something. So, for instance, many of my clients are surfers, so we'll surf together. Um, Between Zoom calls, I will, practice my Van Halen that I need to get right before my next gig for about 10 minutes, and that really de-stresses me to do that. Do a little yoga set. If I have a couple of hours, I'll meet some friends and do some yoga and surfing at the beach, and then come back, and I will just kick ass at whatever I'm doing in work. I'll be able to get in an hour and a half, get done what might take 3 or 4 hours if I'm like, I want to do this, but I don't really want to do this. And I'll put my, half of my mind into this. So it's really, I invite you all to really, imagine a beautiful weave of your business life, your personal life, your hobbies, your passions, your family. And there is a way, particularly with the new dynamics of work at home, sometimes go to the office, and the flexibility that we have to be able to do that. And it's a fundamental shift in humanity, from the idea of you wake up, have breakfast, go to work early, sit in traffic, come home late, and then try to get your life in. So the dynamism provides a great amount of opportunity for you to have health throughout your day, and sprinkle your day with little happy notes of whatever you enjoy doing. It might be just petting your cat, and that's fine.
Yeah, that is, and I just want to I want to welcome Kim Willis.
Hey,
And
Kim.
Kim, I do work with Kim in Canadian Mental Health Association here in Windsor, Essex, and she mentioned work-life balance, but she said you need to be intentional. And I think this is
100%, Kim.
Yeah, because this is all about the power of mindset as well. Which let's go into that, and then we'll swing back to get touch base on some of the other stats, as well as some of the other points you make about what we're going to do next, some action items. But let's jump into the cold shower idea. Now, what I talk about is the idea of it being a principle that can be applied to other areas of life. So for people that may be joining in that haven't heard my story, I haven't heard you talk about a cold shower, how did this come about that you decide to take a cold shower? And can you talk about the science and why? And then I can give my 2 cents, but I think I'd like to hear from you why you think cold showers are important.
That's so funny. So if someone asked me, what'd you do today? Oh, I jumped in the cold shower with Gail. So, and about 20 or 50
at our studio audience.
Exactly.
Just before you get started, I was at an event and someone did say, I had a cold shower. I was thinking of you in my cold shower, and then everybody laughed, right? So it's, lots of jokes about cold shower.
Exactly. If you get very excited, just take a cold shower if this podcast really turns you on. So as part of my training in yoga and meditation, I've done about 2,000 hours of various types of training in these arts and sciences. One of the recommendations from the ancient traditions of yoga is to take a cold shower. Or actually, in the old days, villagers would wake up and they would go to the river and they would bathe in the river and give thanks and then start their day. And so we've explored this cold shower thing, and I recommend it to everyone. It's very powerful. So let me just start with saying I hated cold showers. I am from India, okay? I like hot. And if you ask my mom or my brother or sister, I'm the one who would basically take like an hour and a half hot bath and keep filling it up with hot every day. So cold showers are not my comfort zone. Gail talked about comfort zone, and a lot of what the cold shower principle is about is that intentionality that Kim talked about and doing things that are out of your comfort zone. So let's first talk about what we do. You wake up and you do your business if you need to, you brush your teeth or whatever, and then you go straight into the cold shower. So why cold shower? Well, let's first start at the physiological benefits of cold showers. And there's plenty of research on this. By taking a cold shower or bath or plunge, Tony Robbins takes a plunge every day. I plunge in the ocean, even without a wetsuit. It has so many physiological benefits. Your immune system, particularly with all this COVID crap going around, it gives an extra boost to your immune system. Your nervous system really gets powerful and strengthened. And if you think of a lot of what we teach in yoga these days to our clients who are really feeling a lot of stress is how to really build up the strength of your nervous system. And well, why your nervous system? Well, because your nervous system is what will, when it's strong and made of steel, will keep you from getting nervous, will keep people from getting on your nerves, and it actually affects your muscular system and everything. So it affects your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your nervous system, your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, and it's just great for you. There's no downside. You won't get sick. You won't catch a cold, even though your egoic mind will go, I don't want to do this. I might get sick. And so on the physiological side, there's so many benefits. Setting that tone for your day. Setting a tone. You know how like when you have music, there's a tone to the music, a power chord that goes, that's what this song's going to be about. And from a mindfulness perspective, consciousness, and from your basically from a sovereignty perspective, when I step into that cold shower, I am declaring my sovereignty over my mind, because your mind's like, I don't want to do this. Won't feel good. You know what? You did it for the past couple of weeks. Take a day off. You hear all these different voices in your head that are trying to keep you from your highest good. And so to me, the act of stepping into that shower, because by the way, I still get those voices after all these years, maybe not today. You know what? Maybe not today. You went surfing yesterday. That's all right. And so really by stepping into that cold shower, I'm actually declaring my sovereignty over my mind. It's like I'm in charge. If you've heard that poem that I'm blanking here. Nelson Mandela read every day in his prison cell is all about being sovereign, and no one can affect you if you're sovereign. So what the cold shower is for me, in addition to the physiological benefits, is I'm basically creating that groove in my brain every day that I'm in charge. I'm in charge. And the I is not my crazy thoughts, my egoic, you're less than, take a day off. And the expression they use in yoga is by um, putting yourself purposefully in a place where you feel uncomfortable, dis-ease.
Mhm.
You actually avoid disease. And so you talk about comfort zone, Gail. Going to a cold shower is actually very much against that. Like I will sometimes stand outside of my shower, even today, for 7 minutes, going, maybe not. I don't know. And I'm like, come on, what are you doing? Get in there. And then you feel like a rock star. And when you come out, I guarantee you, text me. If anyone ever feels crappy coming out of a cold shower, text me and I'll buy you lunch, because you will feel like a rock star and you'll feel electrified all day. So that's my little pitch: is be sovereign in
Yeah.
your consciousness, be intentional around your day. And if you purposely put yourself into things that are not easy, that
Mhm.
are dis-ease for you, that's how you grow, and you will actually avoid you'll just have a better day. So there's my pitch for cold showers: 3 or 4 minutes, and then you can take a hot shower, you can do whatever you want, wash your hair.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is just step into something that's uncomfortable, that your mind says, I don't want to do this, I might get sick. And these are all illogical
Yeah.
things.
It's interesting because a lot of times I call it, my friend refers to it as the lizard brain, right? Because there's a rational brain, then the lizard brain that gets in there and says, you can't do it. And I'm with
100%.
you. I did not, people think I'm like, it's heroic. I go, I did not like cold water. I was in this middle of summer in a pool that used to take me like an hour to get in because I dipped my toe in. And it really is, it was because I heard you explain the science behind it, plus how it's good for your skin.
Oh, by the way, oh yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
to mention, just for those
Yeah.
of you who care about how we look and feel, the cold showers will give you skin that feels like a baby's bottom. It's just so soft, right? Look at Gail's glowy skin. And so the benefits to your skin,
Yeah.
and just your glow. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And the other thing, Persh, that I've now sort of taken this and used it as part of my sign up, suit up, and show up process, but I refer to it now as the cold shower principle because yes, for you can take that and apply it in other areas of life. So I talk about too networking, and a lot of times people think that, or you have to go to a cold shower for a half hour. I said it's actually not that long, 2 to 3 minutes.
2 to 3 minutes. That's it.
You can be
That's
in
it.
and out. And the same with whatever it is that you need to do, if you can step outside your comfort zone,
There you
and
go.
whether it's a cold shower, going to a networking event, but instead of saying I have to meet 5 people, you could just go and listen for the first time, like whatever it is that, and then think about, the benefits. So for me, what helped with the cold shower is making the connection between doing that and then the benefit I get from it, which you now gave the science behind, and that can apply for anyone listening
Anything.
here from
Yeah.
manufacturing, when it's getting on social media, doing something different. For those of people that have tuned in, a few people here I know are doing things where they have started to step out, especially since the pandemic, getting out and using social media, using video, doing those things that are outside your comfort zone. So thank you
Yeah.
for explaining that, the
Absolutely.
science behind it, and that you too struggle with it, that you don't
Oh
like, because
yeah.
it's not because we like the cold water, but we like the benefits that
And you
come
feel
with.
you feel electrified
Yeah.
afterwards. You really do.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are traveling, who start to do that, yeah, report back to me. I'd love to hear your experiences, or to Gail. Um, I've started doing, and I do it religiously, because I just love it.
Mhm.
And So I was traveling to Boston a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just used to get up, crank up the cold shower, and get in. Oh my God, it was like needles. Um, and it's like, you know what? Full on cold wherever I am. So again, and that was way beyond my comfort zone, because it was cold in the winter. Um, So,
Yeah.
yep, there you go.
I
So
want to
yes,
try that when I travel somewhere. I did do it when I visited friends up north, Northern Ontario last summer. They thought I was completely crazy because I got
well,
up
you
in the
are.
morning. Yeah, well, there is that. But I got up in the morning and I go into the lake, the cold lake, first thing in the morning. That was so invigorating. And I couldn't believe I did that because there was a time in my life where I would have thought, there's no way you're going to catch me doing that. But it
Yeah.
really started, it just changes your day.
And to your point, Gail, I know Katie, you talked about it, Katie. It's great
Mhm.
for your bones. It's great for
Yep.
your hair. It's great for your skin. Absolutely. It's really about doing that thing that's not comfortable that you know is good for you. It's, a spoonful of sugar. And, I don't want to go, step up, go reach out and say hi to that person. It's like stepping into the shower. So again, I call it being sovereign in yourself and
Yep.
creating that groove in your brain that says, I'm in charge. I'm not going to let this fear dictate my joy.
So let's go to a few comments just to highlight because Kim was one of the early people that heard my story about the
Kim's
cold shower.
almost convinced. We're going to have to
Yeah,
throw her in the lake.
yeah, I'm gonna throw it in. Yeah, so we got that, and then we have yes. So Katie, welcome, Katie. Katie is
Hey,
another
Katie.
fun person in manufacturing. She's amazing too. We've known each other through networking, and I love your story, Katie, because now you have a little more background. You can connect your son up with. I love that your son has been telling you about this, the science behind the cold showers, because
And
that's
if you're achy, by the way, it's great. What did they do with football
uh,
players after a football game? Ice plunge for
yeah.
the inflammation. So there's so many reasons, but really the main reason is get step out of your comfort zone, do something that's not easy, that has dis-ease in it, so that you can really, master your mind.
So Danner says, have to step up and try to get out. Yes, Danner, you could do it. And then
You should go do it now, Denrich, for 3 minutes and then come back and
come back and
report
report.
to the rest of the
And
audience.
Kim says, you almost have me convinced. So we'll see if Kim, I'll check in with you to see what and then Kate, English, oh my gosh, the cold shower is definitely intimidating. You know what? That's the thing, but it's like, and Anger talks about how she didn't like video, and now she does a live show every week. She did a 3-day, she's done video challenges. So it's like, it's like anything. And that's really why I like to address the cold. It's not just about cold shower, it's about doing other things, because if you do something difficult and then you get a benefit from it, then you might do that again. So I do want to welcome a new, well, he might have been at the show before, but he's done a comment today. So Jason, welcome. Jason is on the board of Canadian Association of Mold Makers with me.
Hey,
he
Jason.
comes out of the financial world. So he says he loves the weave terminology. This is something he tried to succeed on daily. One tip that has worked with me is one email address and one cell number. I don't have personal versus professional. It's all the same for me, which sometimes really surprises people, but it helps emphasize the weave. Yes, because I don't know how people manage to carry on 2 phones, do their work phone, their personal phone. I would get so confused by that. But welcome, Jason. It's so great to have you join us today.
Jason, actually, it's funny. My first project coming out of business school, I was at a consulting company. I was with DuPont Engineering Polymers, and I basically ran around the country talking to mold injection molders all over the country. And so I have a special place in my heart for the molding plastics industry. It was a lot of fun, actually.
And I didn't know this until today. It's interesting that you've worked in aerospace, and I just went out to give a talk out there, and also in the plastics world, because that's another area. So it's interesting. I just want to address this again. Now, a lot of people in the comments today probably understand this, but this is really a good example of the power of reaching out and connecting through social media and listening to podcasts. Because you never know what someone's background is, their connection is. Now, I've had a varied past too, because I'm on my 5th career. I've been, a journalist. I ran a bed and breakfast. I've been a fundraiser. I'm a marketing manager. And it's interesting how, for me, it comes easily to kind of meet people from all over. But I often suggest to others the power of getting out and not just connecting with someone that you think you can sell to. Connect with people you want to enjoy spending time
at a human level.
Yes. And then that's where the magic happens to how doors get opened. But you first are managing to work with people you like. And I can't tell you how powerful that is, because
Oh,
it makes, when people say I have, this energy, it's because I'm surrounded by people with good energy. And that makes such a difference. And it's not that it's, hey, I have days too where I don't have all this energy, just for people to know. I
yeah.
am not, like, some people think like, oh my God, you're so amazing. I go, I am I only post some things on social media. So
And I want to jump on that because I get so many inquiries in LinkedIn, and you can smell a spam bot. I mean, you can smell it. Hey, Gail, would love to connect. It's like, sorry, you are automated. You're out of my face. And Gail reached out in a really, you know, inviting, non-salesy. She was like, hey, I just want to let you know that, that cold shower thing actually, I'm actually doing it. Would love to chat with you about it. And I'm like, oh, and she found out that we both went to Heroic Public Speaking, and we'll put in a little plug for them because I feel that they are the best public speaking training in this country. Gail and I are both public speakers as well. And so I put in a plug for Amy and Michael Port. And so the reach out was very personal. And, you say, I'm going to write the email. And that's kind of like stepping into a cold shower. It's like, I may get rejected. The person may think I'm whatever, but you did it. And here we are today having fun and serving your clients. So,
I always say the answer is always no if you don't ask. And it's all in the approach. And a few of people on here have heard this term. What you want to avoid is the pitch slap, and I think, who I first heard this was from Ron Tite. Ron Tite used that. And I don't know where he heard it, but I've used it now. I know Inga refers to it. It's that where you get that, their LinkedIn request, and they right out of the gate, they want to sell you something. And I always say, don't ever do that. And people do it unintentionally. It's, and this is the power of research and listen. Like, I'm a big podcast listener. That's how I met you. And I also listen to Hidden Brain. That is my, oh my God, that podcast just every time I learn something new about curiosity too, because things aren't always as they seem. And this is a good segue to talk about your 4-step process too, because let's talk about that in terms of how manufacturers and people listening today can now take what we just talked about, getting outside comfort zone and using both, some people talk about right brain, left brain. And I think we all have both.
It's oversimplified. It's so oversimplified. It's a weave. It's a weave.
It's a weave. I do agree that, and you can strengthen, challenge that. Like, I'm not a big fan, like, I'm not the best at using Excel spreadsheets, but I can use them. But it's like, wouldn't be the best use of my time to delve too deep into that, because I at least know enough about them. And I always say that, certain people are really good with those, but I'm better at other things. So I try to work on those gifts. So let's look at, I'm going to pull up the, let me see if I can just find that here. This will just, maybe I'll put it up on screen and then you can start to talk about it here. So this is an interesting thing. I didn't know this until we just spoke the other day, that you have a show up at the center of your triangle.
That's right. We do. We have show up at the center. So this is what we call the Lifter Dynamo. So I run a company called Lifter Leadership, and our website is liftersrising.com. We can put it into the text there. You can put that back up, Gail, and I'll step people
put it back.
It.
I'm going to put a couple of things up here. Yep, we've got
perfect. Yep. So what we found about 7 or 8 years ago was that things were shifting, and I'd been doing a lot of research. And again, I'm a business geek. I love business. I love technology. I love manufacturing, and I love how things change. And I'm all about societal changes, galactic changes, consciousness. And what we saw was happening was a major shift in humanity, and I call it the fourth revolution of modern humanity that's happening right now. It's actually been accelerated through COVID. So the first revolution was the agricultural revolution. Before that, we would all be subsistence farming on our own little farms and praying to God that we'd have enough food to eat today and feed our family. And then a few people realized that you could shift crops, You could do different sorts of hybrids, watch weather patterns, and then the agricultural revolution was created, and we could finally feed humans for the first time at scale. And that basically changed the entire planet where humans could now eat. So that was the agricultural revolution. Then the industrial revolution came because people could do other things. And those who saw that something was changing, that you could use steam power and motion time studies in manufacturing to get efficiencies and make things, move people, move ideas, they became the gods of the world. Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, Carnegie, because they saw something was changing and they leaned into that, which may not have been comfortable for others, right? Then, obviously, the information revolution completely flipped it again, where I can hear a song on the radio or hear a song in a restaurant, hit my Shazam button and pull down the song, the lyrics, the guitar tabs, and learn how to play it within a minute. So those are the three revolutions of humanity. We've now entered a fourth revolution, and I call it the revolution of consciousness, compassion, connection, co-creation. And it's a whole different set of rules, and the way we lead and run our businesses fundamentally has to change. Just like without the internet, like if you tried to run a business without the IT revolution or the internet, like you're basically dead. You're gone. And so that same thing is happening now in terms of our mindsets of how we lead. So if you want to pull up our Lifter Dynamo, these are our 4 lifter mind shifts. So we need to shift the way we think as leaders and managers. What I learned at Harvard Business School was a very different way of leading. It's about command and control. You tell your people what to do. You put people in defined roles and boxes. You maximize productivity and efficiency. You pay people to do what they do and to basically shut up. You work for me. I'm paying you. You'll retire in 30 years. So that's I'm over characterizing and caricaturizing that, but you know what I'm saying. So that's been the way we've been leading companies for 100, 200 years. It's a very Darwinian fighter, winner takes all, loser, winner, predator, prey mindset. That is no longer valid. And COVID has really shined light on that. So now it's no longer about transacting, maximizing, competing, and commanding people. If you bring up the dynamo, it's really now about showing up with all of who you are at the center. Whole human leadership is what we're teaching. And basically, I show up, as a business leader, as a technology expert, as a musician, as a yoga person, and I bring these different gifts to what I'm doing. And the great leaders are going to show up with all of who they are and invite their people to show up with their different yes ands, we call it. So, hey, you might be a barista, or you might be, a manufacturing quality assurance supervisor, but you also you might be a poet at night. Well, how can you as the leader provide that person ability to express that other aspect of who they are within their job? Maybe you give them a chalkboard and they can have their little philosophical poem for the day that they share with their team workers. So basically, it's about showing up as a whole human and inviting your people to show up with all of who they are, not just boxing them into a narrow definition. And so once you show up as a whole human, and Lifter leadership is all about whole human leadership, compassion, caring, listening, purpose, then we basically shift back to serve up. So it used to be competition and maximizing. Now it's all about service. And so at Harvard Business School, I learned how to hunt for customers, target you, capture you, get your share of wallet, segment you, analyze you so I can have my share and not leave any for the competition. That's a very patriarchal, predator prey, victim victor type of mindset. That is out. And most managers today have been trained that way. The new way is lifters like us, like Gail, like many of you. We don't need to hunt, target, capture customers. No, it's a whole different set of rules. We attract, we inspire, we serve, and we lift. We lift our coworkers, we lift our customers and clients, we lift our community, and as a result, we lift our company's profitability. And according to Harvard Business Review, you can have 10.5 times profitability, 10x profitability if you apply conscious leadership principles, which treat people as whole human beings. Oh, there you go. Look at the perfect little statistic provided by our host here. Yeah, 10.5 times. So it's all about serve up, service. And then the second mind shift is listen up. We were taught to speak, think, and tell people what to do. That is no longer the game. Now it's all about listening to your, and today especially, people have been through so much. We do all these workshops around the world in Zoom. We had about 450 people globally for one of our Fortune 500 clients in Australia, Europe, Middle East, and here. And we asked people, how you doing? How much energy do you have? What's going on a scale of 1 to 10? Most people at about 3 or 3.5 right now on the planet. There's been so much grief, loss, financial challenges, children's challenges, caretaking. And so it's all about listening now. And so we teach 4 types of listening. And I tell you, most managers suck at listening. They suck. Okay. They suck. And so it's really about listening. And we teach 4 types of listening in silence, having some sort of contemplative practice. It might be taking a walk, it might be yoga, it might be bird watching, it might be biking, something where you're just in the zone with quiet so you can tap into your true self. Then listening to your body as a whole different dashboard around what's going on in addition to the numbers. Does this feel right? You know what? Here's my hunch, and tapping into your intuition. Then the third type of listening we teach is listening to others, which most people suck at. And the fourth one is speaking into the listening of others, which is a mastery skill where you're speaking in a way where people go, oh my God, they're talking just to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do the first 3 types of listening, you'll have that first gift. So that's listen up. And it's a shift from speaking and thinking to listening and feeling. Major shift. And it's kind of like that shift from that kind of traditionally what has been deemed masculine type of how we show up into more that divine feminine. And of course, everyone has all of those energies. I teach yoga, and of course, everyone has all these energies. Now we're tapping more into that creative, listening, compassion side of who we are, which has not really been expressed in business. And now you have to, or your people will quit, which is what's happening now with the great resignation. 55% of people are saying, I'm out of here. You're a jerk. I know what's important in my life. You're not paying me enough. And so that's creating incredible pressure on people like you who don't have the staff. You don't have the right trained people. Your customers are suffering. And so that's part of what we're doing with the workshops and coaching we do, is helping people unwind that doom cycle. And then the fourth mind shift, team members will leave. Exactly. If they don't see listening, compassion, dignity, purpose, action, they will leave. And that's what's happening at a galactic level right now. And it's leading to a doom cycle where, let's say, the leader and their team are already stressed and overworked because it's an epidemic right now. Something like 34% of people are overwhelmed, which means they can't make basic decisions like what to wear or what to eat. It's beyond stress. And these are the people who are operating your machinery. These are the people who are driving trucks at night. So we have to shift how we do these things. And so it's really about listening and compassion. And then the last of the 4 mind shifts: show up in service through listening and purposeful action. Take action that's purposeful. Give people a reason to want to do what they're doing instead of just to make money.
That is great. And what's interesting is that I didn't know this until we just spoke recently, that you had to show up, and obviously my show is show up, but another connection we have, Paresh, about how our paths have crossed for a reason. And
I'm a big believer in that, by the way. Things line up. When you're in the zone, things line up.
Yes. And when you're intentional, as Kim said too. I think
Kim.
Because when you're intentional, you also notice these things. I remember reading, what's that book? I can't think of it now. Oh, it just gave me green book. The Celestine Prophecy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone has something for you.
Yeah. And it's so amazing because this happens to me. It is like, you buy whatever red car, you notice more red cars. So because you all of a sudden are becoming intentional. So if you believe there is good, you will see more good. And I often say this is exactly how I see social media. Because whenever people say, oh, social media is like negative, I go, then you need to work on curating your list. Because when I go on social media now, unless I intentionally go look for some things because I want to read some news, but for the most part, my social media feed, except maybe on Facebook, because I always say that's friends and family. That's a different. Sometimes you can't choose so much.
You can't choose your family.
You can't choose your family, but in other platforms, it's amazing that because the more that you're following something or watching something, especially on TikTok, you'll get more of that too. So let's just go to our studio audience here. We have a few people I just want to say.
Oh, Rebecca had a great point I wanted to get back to. Rebecca said a friend of hers with MS for 20 plus years had assistance to take a cold shower every morning. She did this for years to help with probably inflammation. She was essentially a quadriplegic during much of this and made her feel much better. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Rebecca. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
That is one of the things I've noticed too. This was just recently because I remember this a while back. I'd done it when I thought I was having a cold. Come on, this was like probably 2 years ago. And I had the cold shower and then I felt better. It almost like it knocked it out of me. And then recently I remember having this headache, couldn't get rid of the headache. So I think I had a cold shower in the morning, but later in the day I went back and had one and it really helped relieve that headache. So it's interesting because it is definitely counterintuitive. And I think a lot of things that we find difficult, it does seem out of whack because you would think when you're not feeling well, you want to have a warm shower. You want to
absolutely. It's if your muscles are aching, a heating pad would feel so good, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
However, the cold is so good for
my chiropractor often says, ice it. I'm like, but I want to warm. So there is a reason to. Let's see what Katie says. I soak my stupid curls in cold water conditioner. I call them stupid because they're not cooperative, especially lately. They're not. Embrace your curls, Katie.
Embrace your curls.
Embrace your curls. Let's see. Okay, we have Dennis says, I'm almost tempted to go in fresh. Okay, Dennis, there you go. That is your goal to try the cold shower.
Text me on LinkedIn. Let me know how you feel.
Yeah. And we have another person I work with at Cavalier Tool. Brian G. says, after all, another wacky Wednesday with Gail. So Brian is someone who's definitely been stepping up his game in terms of, social media posting. He comes to this show. He even came on his vacation the 1 week he came into the show. So that always makes my heart happy because it means he must, I hope he's getting something from it. So
a super fan.
And then that's when I'm not one here with Sony. Yes, I think that's the thing. We all have multiple parts and we have to kind of banish, and a lot of this goes back, especially for, we see this with girls and women. I'll say, well, I'm not good at math. And it's like, they say these things and it starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I try to stop myself from saying those things too, because
absolutely. You have to be very mindful of what we say. We really do.
And I know you've talked about the power of words, which you did reference, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Let's go through just a couple of things and then I want to switch back because we don't want to end on because too negative, but I did want to just address this so that people maybe can see that they're not alone, but there is hope too. And I think that's what today is and Fresh, what work you're doing.
Yeah.
But just for people to know that, this was from the
American Psychological Association.
Yeah. So I put that on there. So 81% report stress related to supply chain. And then this one too.
This is of the U.S. population, a huge study that was done.
So these are things that are the reality. And I often say, we don't want to dismiss them. This is a reality because a lot of people right now are really struggling. We were just talking about this from a mental health perspective. There's people struggling, with the cost of gas, the cost of food.
Yep.
And I also work with, Kim was on here. We do work. She's leading something right now we have a new youth hub in our community because youth have struggled prior to the pandemic. And now it's become even worse. So these are some of the stats that talk about the reality, especially in manufacturing.
Yeah.
So we know those are the stats. We know there's come from, a reliable source in terms of, where this information is coming from. Maybe as we start to wind down and what are sort of any steps or suggestions or tips that people could do other than take the cold shower? But is there anything you'd recommend for people in manufacturing now or anyone that is there some simple things they can do? And then obviously go look at look into what you are doing with Lifters Rising. But anything actionable that people can do out of the gate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me give you a breath. Okay. Let me give you a de-stress breath. We talked about the limbic brain. I call this the raspberry breath. It's a little funny, and it actually will help you de-stress. So, can everyone see me for a second? What we're gonna
I put up the
do?
raspberries just because.
Okay.
Although now I want to go eat some
Make me
raspberries.
hungry. I know.
I know.
So basically, when you feel stressed, which is pretty much it's in the air right now, I really want to acknowledge what's going on. People are so in pain right now. So when you look around at the people you're working with on the manufacturing line, or if you're doing quality control or supply chain planning, um, I'm going to ask you these 5 questions, and I'm going to give you the breath, because the 5 questions are going to stress you out, and I'll give you the breath to show you that it can de-stress you. So we ask these of our clients in these workshops that we do, whether it's just a small team of a leadership team, or again 400, 500 people globally, and we ask these questions. So if you want, you can put it into the text, but if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine too. So just yes or no. There's no right or wrong answer, of course, to these 5 questions. Number 1, have you lost anyone, a loved one, in the past couple of years? You know, people passing away, yes or no? The second question is, have you or someone close to you experienced any major issues, illnesses, physical issues, etc.? The third question is, have you experienced any financial strains due to this whole period of pandemic, et cetera, that have affected your ability to, manage your finances in your household? The fourth one is, have you had to make any major structural changes to the care of your loved ones, children, parents, or others? And then the last one is, has your business been negatively impacted? Most people have had 3 or 5 of those on this planet. We've probably asked this question of probably 5,000 people cumulatively with all these workshops we've been doing. So I want you to, first of all, to know people are in pain. You're in pain, and take care of yourself first. Oxygen mask on first, because people are really in a lot of stress and pain. That's really an epidemic mental health crisis, and that's why I love what I'm doing, because we can make people's days a little better, and then after that, they'll have a few tools that they can use in their workplace. So having said that, let me give you the raspberry breath. So everybody, inhale deeply, and then you're going to exhale with a raspberry like you do to your kids. Okay, let's do 3 more. And I want you to see how you feel now and afterwards, and see if you can do that as long as you can. Ready? Deep breath in. It's funny too, and laughter is always a de-stressor. Okay, third breath. And one more.
My nose is itchy.
How does that make you feel? Anyone want to type in the chat? Do you see any changes in how you feel? I'll explain what this does for you in the meantime. If you want to pull up that slide, Gail. What we have just done is we've actually been working on the vagus nerve system. The vagus nerve actually is a nerve in our system that actually affects and controls our fight, flight, freeze response. Okay, this is the emergency response. If there's a tiger, what do? Ah! So this switch basically activates your adrenaline, your cortisol, your epinephrine, all of these stress hormones that are emergency based hormones to go, we need to get the hell out of this bad situation. So you surge with all of these hormones to get out of that situation. Unfortunately, because of the continued crises we've had for the past 2 or 3 years, one of the statistics from that same research showed that 71% of people feel there's been a continuous stream of crisis for 2 or 3 years. So what this has done for people is that switch in our vagus nerve is stuck in the on position. It's stuck in the I'm in a crisis. This is an emergency. I am threatened mode. And many people are stuck in that for like continuously, your body cannot handle that stress. Your nervous system cannot handle you always being attacked by a lion. It's only a temporary phenomenon. So this breath, the raspberry breath, actually turns that switch off. If you do it for 2 minutes, I guarantee you, you will just chill and be like, oh my God. Because we're just constantly ready for that next shoe to drop. So we're in that emergency mode. So I recommend you do that raspberry breath. It's just simple. You just breathe in and then just try to breathe deeper every time and see if you can make the motorboat go as long as you can. Some people can't even do, and that's okay. Just do the best you can. You'll be able to do it over time, and that will turn off the emergency mode. So that's a tip I recommend. There we go. Ingor said it definitely de-stresses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Inger, for that. And I know Inger said before, she had told me she does a form of that. Sometimes like it helps to, like, sometimes if she struggles with thinking of something, it's kind of a way to reset. And I know I have also done yoga, and a lot of people, it's often what people call it, quiet time, meditation, prayer, whatever, like whatever you want to call it. I said, it is helpful to take time away. And you said it best. I don't always do it, but whenever I do it, it always works.
Always.
When you just take time away, you can come back. What would take you 3 hours? If I go for a walk, go for a bike ride, I come back, I can get more done in an hour.
I'm hyper-productive. Hyper-productive.
Yeah, hyper-productive. That's a really good term. Hyper-productive.
Yeah, hyper-productive. Absolutely. And then the other thing that you can do this breath under a mask. You can do it in the grocery store. You can do it in the car. No one even knows you're going. And so it's really, really, and you think about like the science of it and the nervous system and all that, which is an explanation that feeds our egoic mind. But really think about it. After a project is done, where if you've been working really hard, or you finally have shipped that, you've had a big manufacturing production and you've shipped it. What do? Well, you're like, oh my God, we've been working hard. You go.
Yeah.
Our body automatically knows that when something is over, you go.
Yeah.
And so this is just reinforcing what our body wants to do, so that we can de-stress and get back to that normal state, not the activated emergency state.
I want to show this again, because I am fascinated by the science, because now I'm a visual learner. So I really like that you use this as a teaching tool, because anybody that knows that feeling of, feeling that restriction here, feeling here, the tension, now you can, there is science behind it. So when you're doing, whether it's the raspberry, and in yoga, there's lots of yoga breathing, like even just, I find myself sometimes just, we have to remember not to breathe from here, but from deeper down, because most of us just breathe here and
or from up here. Yeah, we have to breathe down there.
Yeah. It's so
and don't forget, you can breathe behind you as well.
Yes.
I tell a lot of my students, when they breathe, they're only thinking of the front or the front of their diaphragm. And or even when I talk about like projecting your heart, the light from your heart. Remember, your heart's back here too. Remember, you've got lungs back here too.
Yeah.
And so fill up your balloon back here too, because it's often neglected, and you can get an extra 30% oxygen, which is really prana, life force, coming through in that way.
You get a bit of a natural high sometimes. Like I find even just taking that deep breath, because
you will get high.
It's like because we don't, and when you don't use that, it's like, whoa, sometimes I get a little dizzy.
You can get, and there's all kinds of TikToks on how you can actually DMT just through breath work. You can look them up on TikTok, but there's certain ways where you can. There's this guy Wim Hof. He's called the Iceman.
Yes.
And he basically goes, in frozen lakes naked or whatever. And there's some really great breaths where you can get yourself into really activated states and get high just from breath. So just from breath.
There we go. The natural high. Okay, well, this hour has flown by. We've
covered
so much ground, but I do want to end with, and I think I know a couple of things, but maybe you could just give some examples of how do you exercise your curious brain? What are things you do to exercise your curious brain?
Oh wow, things I do to exercise. I am very curious. So anything that's new, I will give it a try. Sometimes I'll get hurt doing it, but it's okay. So I really enjoy, because to me it's all about those yes ands. Showing up with your yes ands, and the more yes ands you have, that you can weave into a unique expression as a being, in whatever you're doing professionally or personally, you're just adding to your life. So absolutely, I
I
really
will.
enjoyed our time together. Thank you everyone for joining. If you would like to touch base, just find me on LinkedIn, Paresh Shah. Find me through Gail. Our website is liftersrising.com. And let me know about those cold showers
I'll charge
and
it.
how that affects the groove in your mind, that where you declare, I am sovereign. I am sovereign this
And
day.
I want to add what Inger said to it. It always seems impossible until it's done, Nelson Mandela. That's another great. Thank you, Inger, for that. And she also said,
Thank you.
this is so true. How we speak to ourselves matter. Oh,
Oh,
yes.
100%.
We are way too hard on ourselves at times. So thank you, Inger, for those.
Thank you,
And
Inger.
yes, please make sure to connect with Paresh. And as I said, Inger, thank you for those words of wisdom. Inger has a show 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday mornings, and also has some great guests when it comes. And she is the networking ninja, and she can help you